Thanks for joining us here on Service to School Stories. Your hosts for this season are Alec Emmert, Service to School CEO and Navy veteran.
And Sydney Mathis, Chief Program Officer and former college admissions officer. This season will cover topics as it relates to higher education, military service transition, and career opportunities and outcomes for veterans. Join us as we share student stories, inside tips from the admissions office, and conversations with employers actively hiring student veterans. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Service to School Stories podcast. Today, I'm joined by two of our partner institutions, some of my incredible colleagues. First, I have Hira. She is the Assistant Dean of Admission at Amherst College, and also joined by Colleen. She is the Director of Veterans Student Outreach and Support at Vassar College. Both of our guests are joined with us today to chat a little bit more about the differences in the curriculums at their institutions. And this is important for our students because as you all are considering, what your academic journey and experience looks like inside of the classroom, both of our guests today work at institutions that have a unique academic experience within the higher education landscape. I will let both of them explain a little bit more about the curriculums at each of their schools. But first, Colleen and Hira, I want to turn it over to you all to introduce yourselves to our listeners. So Hira, we will start with you.
All right. Thank you so much for having me today. Welcome to the listeners. My name is Hira Byrne. I am an Assistant Dean of Admission with Amherst College, and I'm on the transfer and military team. I am a military spouse of a career enlisted Marine. He's still going, and also the granddaughter of a World War II Army, Air Corps, POW veteran. So that's kind of my tie to the community and what really got me interested in doing the work that I do. I've been in this veteran transition space for about a decade now, and most of it has been spent in higher ed, helping service-connected veterans and veterans find their place on campus. So at Amherst, part of my role is helping with learning about the institution, but also highly selective schools and finding a good fit for what the veteran is seeking.
Great, thanks, Hira. And Colleen, how about you?
Thank you, Sydney. I'm Colleen Mallet here at Vassar College. And my current role is the Director of Veterans Students Outreach and Support. So a little background on myself. My father was a World War II veteran, as were several of my uncles, and several of my cousins were Vietnam vets. So that's kind of the history in my family and kind of what draws me to this population, the student population. I've worked for several decades in higher education. Most of them working in the registrar's office. I was the registrar for about 11, 12 years when this Vassar created this new position as to oversee our veteran student population. So in my current role, I recruit and assist veterans during the application process. Once they're on campus, I serve as the point person for all their aspects of support, both on and off our campus. And I also act as the certifying official for their GI Bill benefits.
Love the kind of length of experiences that we have, checking a lot of boxes. So I know you both are incredible resources to our student population. So really excited to chat with you today as we talk a little bit about academic experiences at some of your institutions. So to get started, right, we're talking today about an open curriculum, and what exactly that means is unfortunately the answer, it depends, right? I think a lot of people are kind of bummed when you're like, okay, well, it depends on the school that you talk to, but would love for you both to just give a brief kind of overview of what the open curriculum means at your school, and then we'll dig into a little bit more about the benefits of that and why students might be leaning into an open curriculum. So Colleen, we'll start with you at Vassar.
Okay, so at Vassar, our open curriculum is, we have some structure to our curriculum, right? That being that all students must complete a writing seminar, a quantitative requirement, and a language requirement, right? Those are our three general education requirements. Outside of that, students must also complete a quarter of their work outside of their major division, right? So if you're majoring in something in the sciences, we want to make sure you're taking at least a quarter of your work outside of that division, something in the languages, the literature, right? Besides that, the rest of the courses you take, it's completely open curriculum, right? It's up to you to decide how you want to make up the rest of that coursework. By having a quarter of your work outside of your division, that's creating the depth, right? Making some interdisciplinary connections across various fields of study.
Great, thanks. And Hira, what about you all at Amherst?
Yeah, so at Amherst, we have a fully open curriculum, as I like to say. And as mentioned, it means outside of your chosen major, you don't have any general education courses, core distributional requirements. So our students are really focused on working with a faculty advisor to select the coursework that aligns with their major. We're really thinking about, considering interdisciplinary lens, as mentioned, to the topics they hope to study, and supports the exploration of intersectionality of ideas and concept for their desired major and future career goals. What I think is very special about these open curriculums is that it provides students an opportunity to dabble in courses they otherwise wouldn't have, since they have room to do so without those gen eds. Many of our students get to enjoy, like an entry-level music course or taking a science or English course purely out of interest. And it really encourages then that intellectual curiosity. And then as well, since no one is being told, hey, you have to be in these classes, you're completing this checklist. All the peers that you have chosen to enroll in that course with you. So that adds the value of the level of engagement and discussion that's going to happen. So I think it also really adds to the classroom environment, not just in how you're selecting your classes, but then again, who's in them with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I was speaking with one of our applicants last week, and he was saying, I don't really want to be told, here's my, 6 classes I have to take within history, or here's my 4 classes I want to take I have to take within science. He was like, I kind of just want to dabble around and take classes and, while working towards my graduation requirements. So I love the, opportunity to explore, learn for the sake of learning. And like you pointed to here, being in a classroom with people that have chosen to be in that class. So then, you're not sitting next to the kid next to you or student next to you. And, pulling teeth to get people to participate, that everyone wants to be in that learning environment together, which just makes for, a more colorful dialogue, classroom conversations. But I think something that you both kind of have overlap in is recognizing that the importance of learning those soft skills and learning the, skills that translate outside of the classroom as well. So can you talk to us a little bit about how this academic experience inside of the classroom translates outside of the classroom? So in the work world, internships, or professional programs. Hira, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so with preparing for what's to come, while you're a student, I think this is where that exploring of topics and ideas gets you ready for what's going to happen actually when you hit the workforce. Because the amount of complex thinking, and many student veterans are used to this, right? You've already been in the workforce. You know how many competing thoughts, considerations, moving parts are always in action for a single task. And so in this learning, in the open curriculum, in a liberal arts education, you're being asked to think in that multidimensional way, which our student veterans are actually very used to doing so. So it really does prepare you for the next career field and thinking of those considerations. When you think of kind of the outcomes and how students are taking these experiences, I think it is very special to be at institutions like ours, because you are going to work very closely with faculty advisors and mentors. And so, at Amherst, our students are mentored by faculty. They have a faculty advisor assigned to them from their department that is guiding them and mentoring them all the way through. And then we also have our Loeb Career Planning Center that really connects that bridge to the career aspect and considerations for the hands-on learning and application. This includes your internship, your research, practical skills that you want to get. And our center actually has pathways for different identities. So we do have, resources dedicated to student veterans, thinking about, again, what is your experience you're already bringing, tying it to what you're learning, and where can you leverage that where you go on the other side of Amherst. And so we do have many students going off to med schools, MBAs, GD programs, and everything in between. So I think too, we think open curriculum, these are offered at liberal arts institutions. And sometimes people think, is that going to lead me to the career field I want? Right. And it can, and it will. And then again, also many of our students are going after those prestigious scholarship awards, fellowships, post-graduation too. So not just thinking about what comes with grad school, but again, maybe being a Rhodes Scholar, Fulbright Scholar, any of those as well to add to your experience and your exposure. And through an open curriculum too, and these schools, we are encouraging, again, that level of exploration, challenging yourself in new ways, which I think veterans are very interested in doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And Colleen, what about you all?
Well, an open curriculum encourages connections across the disciplines, right, which we've talked about. And that provides students with both a breadth and a depth, so a well-rounded program. At Vassar, 93% of our graduates are employed or enrolled in a graduate program within 6 months of graduation. Those that apply to medical or law school, the acceptance rate for Vassar grads is 88%.
That's great.
So we're doing something right.
Yeah.
The critical thinking and problem solving skills that they develop, we're going to carry them far, as those are the skills that employers are looking for. A student's major informs but doesn't define their career.
Mm-hmm.
Career paths can take many twists and turns. The activities that students engage in outside of the classroom are equally important. They provide real world skills. Things like campus jobs, participating in athletics, student clubs, mentored research, internships, community engaged learning. These are all ways in which our veteran students have prepared themselves for life after Vassar. And just to give you some examples of how the major informs but doesn't define a career, right? Currently, I have a couple veterans in MBA programs, right? One is at Rice University. His major at Vassar was science, technology, and society, right? I have another in an MBA program at Dartmouth who majored in economics. And then out in the workforce, I was just talking with one of our grads the other day at an event here on campus, and at Vassar, he majored in Greek and Roman studies, right? And everybody thinks, what can you do with that, right?
Right.
He's currently a senior consultant at Booz Allen Hamilton, working on a grant for the Department of Energy. Right.
Yeah.
So it's that well-rounded breadth and depth and interdisciplinary, connections that really form the basis of the tools that you need, once you leave Vassar, Amherst, whatever institution.
Yeah, absolutely. I would tell students all the time. So I remember it was years ago, and a very selective technical school, they had to implement almost like a social skills, communication and society course, because so many of their students were coming in and were so technical focused. And so, like they could do the work in the classroom, but once they got in front of employers or once they were around their peers, they lacked some of those skills that make them that well-rounded individual that is, sought after by an employer. So I think when students are considering this open curriculum for their educational journey, taking some of that part as an added benefit, that it's built in, it's normal, it's a part of the campus culture to truly be that well-rounded learner. It's only going to provide better opportunities on the back end. We think so much of this return on investment. I'm constantly seeing posts on LinkedIn about, well, what are students getting after they graduate? You're being able to point back and to say, yeah, they're walking away with a shiny piece of paper, but they're also taking these skills with them. And here are institutions that we can point student veterans to ensure they are walking, across the stage and into a job, and they are employable in a well-paying, benefits career. That's not just, their first job, and then where do they go after that, right? They are able to kind of continue up that career track. And Hira, I saw you shaking your head. I'm sure you see a lot of those same posts and kind of feel that same feeling of it's so much more than that. And it's so much about the experience and, those out of classroom connections and being around faculty members that are, well regarded in their field. So I think this conversation just reinforces that it's not just, getting those graduation requirements, walking across the stage and calling it good. So very excited to encourage more veterans to pursue an open curriculum for their education experiences.
Can I add on? I think when you think about how they're trained to think in the military, it is very much very linear. And that's because, again, what is the outcome? What is the mission? You have to stay along this very strict trajectory to be efficient and effective and for the well-being, safety of others involved. And I think one of the things that open curriculums and schools like Vassar and Amherst and Brown and these schools that are offering these curriculums are doing is really re-inviting them to come back to that critical thinking and that flexibility of thought, which it's not that they didn't have it in the military, it's they had to compartmentalize it, I think. And again, depending on what your military occupational specialty is, of course. But it's adding to that and welcoming them back into that discussion and thinking from that lens and being critical and questioning. And so it can be uncomfortable at first, but it's a great skill to develop too, again, as you think about your education, and then again, what are you hoping to do and be able to interact with in the workforce? So I think about that when the outcome and how does this critical thinking and open curriculum carry to what you're doing. We know that they can carry out technical skills. We've seen that. That's part of your service. So let's add that depth of the flexibility and critical thinking skills that you have and really highlight those for wherever it is you're going.
Yeah, I love that segue, Hira. Whenever I talk to students about an open curriculum, kind of explain that, you have a lot of flexibility and how you get to your graduation requirements will vary based on the school that you enroll at. But I think a lot of applicants could be scared of that amount of flexibility and kind of stepping away from that structure. They want to be, some of them want to be handed their graduation track, and it's like, okay, first semester you're going to take these classes, and next semester you're going to take the follow-on classes. So what advice would you have, Colleen, for applicants that maybe are a little nervous or hesitant to kind of pursue the flexibility of an open curriculum?
I've had this conversation with one of my veterans recently. And sometimes kind of as Hira was alluding to, you're coming from a very structured environment, right? And now you're coming to our school and we're saying, okay, it's time to register, pick anything you want, right? Here's 1,000 courses, just choose anything. And it's like, it's overwhelming, right? So I think, what I try to tell them is, yes, this can be overwhelming, but this is countered with strong advising that we have here on multiple levels, right? And that the advisors will help you to navigate the curriculum. And I always remind them that no matter what course you take, all of them will count towards your 32 units that you need to graduate, right? So none of those courses are wasted in any way. And I think, the other thing I try to tell them about the beauty of an open curriculum is maybe think of it here as kind of like choice, support, and resources, right? So students are given the flexibility to explore all facets of the curriculum and the courses that interest them. And that flexibility allows them to experiment and pursue a subject they might know nothing about, but maybe it piques their interest. And there's kind of like three students, right? There's the student who already knows the area of the curriculum in which they want to focus, right? So they come in, they know exactly, I want to be pre-med, I want to do biology, right? That's great. They can dive right in from the beginning and start with that major. Then there's a student that's got a lot of different interests, right? So, and the flexibility of the curriculum allows them to combine all these interests in the form of like two majors or a major and what we call a correlate sequence or a minor. And then there's the third student who has no clue what they want to major in or what they want to pursue. So the choice and the flexibility allows them to explore and experience many subjects firsthand. We don't require a student to declare their major until the end of their sophomore year. So you've got like
that was going to be one of my follow-up questions.
Yeah, 4 semesters to just take different courses, kind of figure out where your passion lies, right? And in all instances, those students are supported through various levels of advising, right? We've got pre-major advising, major advising, pre-med, pre-law. And then I partner with many offices on campus that also serve as resources to our students. I make sure I have a point person in each office that I can send the veterans to, be that career development, study abroad, our Dean of Studies, our accessibility office, who works with students on things like academic coaching and time management, accommodations that might be needed in and out of the classroom. So just to name a few of those, the support system is key in all of this.
Yeah, Hira, what about you all?
Yeah, so in terms of, what's built in an open curriculum, I here at Amherst, we do have some requirements, kind of alluded to there, with Colleen, if you enter as a first year, you do have to complete 32 semester credit, courses with us. So that's one of the requirements. If you come in as a transfer, it's a little different, depending on when you come in. But really, when it comes to planning, I think this is a misconception about the open curriculum that scares, as Colleen was saying, is you're left to your own devices and just figure it out. And that's not it at all. As mentioned, you're going to have that faculty support. At Amherst, as mentioned, we don't have, just these academic advisors tucked away in a department somewhere that don't know anything about the classes or whatever's going on. It's your faculty that are teaching you, who are in your major, are the ones advising you and guiding you. And if you enter in as first year, you have a first year advisor until you declare your major, because we also don't have you declare until the end of your sophomore year, by your sophomore year. And so, we give you time and support as you're figuring out what you want to do. And again, this is through that exploration. We don't have you declare too early, because you are getting to dabble in a lot of different things. Maybe you thought you wanted biology and then you fall in love with the classics course and you're like, this is it. And so you have that time. And again, with an open curriculum, honestly, you pick your major because that's what maybe you're most interested in, but majority of your classes are going to be outside of it. So even when you declare, you still have a lot of options. Many of our students actually end up double majoring because they have room in the open curriculum to do so. And you'll be guided by these faculty. At Amherst, we have about a 7-to-1 student to faculty ratio, so we're a very small school. And it allows you high touch. You're going to be, again, engaging with these individuals a lot. So they're going to get to know you and be able to tailor the guidance they're giving you. And again, with our career center and our class deans and resource centers, every person here at the campus is willing to sit down and say, what are you interested in? What are you feeling you need? And again, when you think of open curriculum, we always think, what's the academic component to this? But again, what are the other supports, as Colleen mentioned, that might be of benefit to you? So it's a holistic approach to the student learning and support that is given. And I think that's a very critical piece, again, as you think about what do you want from your curriculum. Part of that is the kind of advising you're hoping for. So while you have this array of courses to choose from at these schools, you're going to have really dedicated advisors. I have found at some schools, and this is speaking from my own, experience as a student, even when I had that checklist of here's my gen eds, I was kind of left floating sometimes when it came to who's helping me pick which, class.
Which class checks that box.
Yeah. But here at these schools, we are saying the world is your oyster, pick your classes, and we want to help you do it. We want to help you be informed. We have over 800 classes here at Amherst. We are part of a consortium of colleges as well, and that boosts the classes potential to 7,000 for students to choose from. That's a lot of classes. So we want to make sure you're not doing this alone. And some students come in knowing exactly what they want to do their whole time at Amherst, and some say, no, I really want to, piece this out and get a feel of it. So we also you don't have to have every semester and year planned out from the moment you hit campus. Again, that's that exploring piece and creative piece to who you are and what you want out of your academic experience.
Yeah, and that's actually let's talk about the other side, right? What about the student that's like, okay, this sounds really great. Sounds like, something I'm interested in, but I do have a little bit more of a structured thought, in terms of getting to my end goal. What would you say for that student who, doesn't necessarily want to do as much exploring, wants to kind of come in and say, all right, math, I'm going straight into math. How is that student's experience different than maybe the student that is exploring a little bit more? And Colleen, I'd like to start with you because you mentioned you all have, a certain percentage of the classes or a certain number of classes have to be taken outside of that discipline. How does that student thrive on campus?
So for that student, that's not terribly unusual, right? So that, as you mentioned, that student comes in and they know math is their thing, math is their passion, and that's where they want to major. Then that's great. So, right from the start, then they can start, meeting with faculty and advisors in the math department, right, to help them kind of map out, all right, here are the math requirements that you'll need to complete, over the next however many years, depending if you come in a first year or a transfer. And for most of our departments, those major requirements are around 9 to 11 units at the most, right? So the rest of it is for the student to choose from, right? And that's where some of the advising can come in, and they can help them to decide, all right, where do you want to take those other courses, right? What other subjects are you interested in studying? And what might complement a math major nicely? And it could be maybe the student, yes, math is what I want to do, but, I'd really like to try a new language. Like, okay, great. Then that's something the student can pursue, right? And we have so many languages to choose from. And it's, we'll have, we also offer American Sign Language, right? For students who, that's an easier way for them a different way for them to learn a language, right? For that student, since they do have to take basically a quarter of their work outside of that kind of STEM division, right? Then they can choose from anything else, across the gamut. And we do have, we've got our 4 divisions, but then we have kind of this 5th division of what we call multidisciplinary courses. So those are things like Africana studies, urban studies, American studies. So even within those, a lot of those are team taught by faculty from multiple departments, right? So they're in the same classroom, kind of giving different perspectives.
Absolutely. And Hira, what about you all?
Yeah, so I think for the student who really knows what they want, that is still a fine fit for schools that have an open curriculum. Honestly, most of the time, the students who really know what they want are actually our STEM students. And again, sometimes people don't think of STEM and open curriculum and liberal arts colleges, but we're big STEM schools as well. And so I think no matter what STEM you're going into, no matter what major you're going into, whatever career field you land in, you're very rarely just doing that task, right? Yep. So that's where I think the working so closely with faculty who've been in the field, getting connected to really great hands-on learning opportunities, going back to that interdisciplinary focus that we have and that intersectionality is critical, because you're going to be constantly reminded that this is bigger than math, this is bigger than English. Like, what are the other things that are interacting with this topic, this career field? So you want to be a mathematician and you're wanting to teach. Well, you're going to interact with people when you teach. So you might want to take some psychology courses, some anthropology courses, things of that nature. So our faculty will sit down and say, yeah, let's think about the other things that are going to add value to prepare you for what it is you want to do and you want to learn. And so that's where, it's okay to have a set goal. But again, in an open curriculum, the only really required courses are your major. So majority of your time is actually spent outside your major. And you have that opportunity to dabble in, and again, these points of, oh yeah, maybe I should take this actually literature course. I need a stronger foundation in my reading and my critical thinking and understanding these concepts that are very abstract and being presented, just to help create that own flexibility of your own mind. And that can happen. And so, or I've just, again, wanted to always take this I wanted to learn how to play the piano, and I can do that here, So again, we want to develop the whole student, and even the students who know exactly where they're headed, there's always room for more well-rounded growth. And our faculty will help students discover what is a comfortable way to explore that growth.
Absolutely. I think to add, if I can add to that, as Hira was saying, a lot of the students who really know what they want to do are those STEM students, right? And we find a lot of those STEM students are thinking pre-med, right? Mm-hmm. So the pre-med advising that we offer also helps them to make sure that they're prepared, right, for when they take the MCATs. They're going to need courses in which they are writing courses, right? I believe they have to take at least 2 courses that are writing intensive. Also, now they've added a lot of sociology to the exam. So now we're making sure that all of those students have at least 1 course of an intro sociology. But it's preparing them, and in doing that, it's also kind of making them well-rounded, right? It's Absolutely. In some ways, it's forcing them to take courses outside of the STEM division to make sure that they're prepared for when they take those exams.
Yeah, and I think it's so important for people to think and get beyond the, okay, well, here's my 4 years, I'm, getting that paper. Because whenever I talk to students who, especially who are considering medical school, and I'm thinking through, okay, well, yes, you have to have the prerequisites to apply to medical school, but like you mentioned, Colleen, you also have to write an essay. And if you can't articulate why you want to go into medicine, if it's just, you took these biology classes or you took these, biomed classes, and that sounds great, you have no idea of like cultural competencies or how being a medical professional like support society as a whole, right? Like that's what they're looking for. People who are compassionate, do want to truly go into the field to do something bigger than themselves, right? And what an incredible way to truly form that opinion than, kind of being able to explore things outside of organic chemistry classes and, biology, labs and all of the undergraduate level classes that everyone applying to med school has to take, right? So it's through this interdisciplinary approach that you're able to truly come up with the most organic essay topic and answer to why you want to pursue med school. And the same thing can be said for law school or MBA programs, right? Like everyone was applying to those programs for the same end goal. They all want to be a doctor, they all want to be an attorney. But what's your why, right? And being able to explore that through these curriculums, I think just allows for a better application when it comes to, being in front of those admissions panels, but also you have to do an interview for a lot of medical schools. So if you can't articulate those thoughts, if they aren't well thought out, imagine that's not going to go over well with an admissions committee. So I love to see that you all, even with the, flexibility in course selection, something you both mentioned is you both have, pre-professional advising. You're able to speak with faculty members that have been there. So when they're encouraging a student to explore outside of the curriculum, they can say, hey, this is why this is going to be beneficial to you outside of your major requirements. So as we wrap up the conversation today, want to hear from you both. In your opinion, working with students that have done well on your campuses and, have truly gone on to do really great things, what would you say for the student who is thinking about applying to either one of your institutions? What do you think is the biggest added value and kind of your, plug for why they should consider a curriculum that allows them this flexibility?
Yeah, I think one of the things, and specifically with the student veteran population in mind, what the open curriculum offers them is that ownership of your educational investment. This is your time, your money, your energy. This is very important when you think about you are taking classes that you want. You're going to get the most. Many of our schools have very generous financial aid, but there are student veterans who are using their GI benefits, right? And you are on a very strict timeline. And the nice thing about our open curriculum is anything you take is part of your degree plan. So you have that opportunity to dabble in the interest, to take the class that's a little bit of a risk, and it's all part of your plan. And so again, if you're between two majors, hey, you get to take these classes that are in those two majors and still be working towards your degree plan. So you're going to be okay. So I think that's very important in terms of, leveraging that piece of how are you using your time, your energy, your benefits to get the most out of your educational opportunities. I think our military population is very self-aware of their career goals and how they want to tie them. And so, being able to meet those goals, but have greater flexibility in that time of learning is what an open curriculum can offer them. And if they do start with one major and they go, oops, nope, they aren't, losing benefits, starting over, it's just all part of a fluid plan. And with these open curriculums, it is exploring not only the classes you're taking, but again, what is that hands-on learning that you can gain to really test the knowledge you have, the prior experiences you're bringing into the workforce you're hoping to enter, doing research. Again, this holistic student learning and development is really, I think, a foundation of these open curriculum and liberal arts institutions.
Great point about not losing, time already invested as they're working towards their end goal. I think, that's honestly one of the lost benefits that we don't talk about enough about the open curriculum. So Colleen, what would be your lasting advice?
I think kind of spinning off of what Hira was saying, definitely the fact that none of those courses are lost, right? And how easy it is to transition from what you thought you wanted to major in, right, to what you actually end up majoring in, right? Many people come in one path and partway down the road, they go another way, but it's easy to apply the courses you've taken, right, to your degree. So nothing is lost, right? So I think that's a real advantage to an open curriculum. And that the ability for students to explore the various fields of study before having to commit to a major, right? You don't come in prescribed with this prescribed curriculum where here's what you must take in semester 1, semester 2, semester 3, semester 4, right? And sometimes in those kind of schools, I mean, that structure might be needed for someone, but there was always that course you wanted to take, but you could never fit it in, right? So you could never take that course I really wanted to. And who knows, maybe that was the course that was really going to spin something new for you, right? And so that was always a what if kind of thing where you might always wonder, what would have happened if I took that course X, right? So this allows you to do that. I had asked a couple of my student interns the other day a similar kind of question, right? Like what do they feel are the advantages of an open curriculum, right? And so I have a quote from one of them that I think would be nice to read. So from the student veteran's perspective, right? Where she said, I personally love the open curriculum. It has allowed me to explore my degree field and figure out the direction I want to go with my future studies and post-graduation work. I've also been able to put more time into things I find interesting, like learning a second language, because the space was available for me to do so.
And that's, just the space is available for me to do so, right? And I remind students all the time, I think the statistic was about 75% of students end up changing their major. And if you're changing it to something significantly different, in a more structured curriculum environment, are you now maybe a semester behind? Do you now have to take summer classes, right? But I think that is truly the point to hit home, that you get to take classes and explore and learn a second language or learn the piano, and it's all counting towards your graduation and just the time invested. So love that, that's kind of what we're ending on. I hope that is certainly something all of our students take away. But Colleen, Hira, thank you so much for, lending your expertise, helping our student population just make better informed decisions about schools and their learning experiences. So excited to continue to work with both of your institutions as we continue to provide opportunities for veterans in the higher education space. So however we can, support each other as we continue on this journey, more than happy to do so. But yeah, we will continue the conversation and hope to see you both soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Take care.
That's it for this episode. Join us next week, same time, same place, where we share more Service to School stories. Service to School Stories is hosted by Sydney Mathis, the Director of Student Success, and produced by Amanda DeBias, the Director of Communication at Service to School. Service to School is a 501c3 nonprofit providing free college admission support to transitioning service members and veterans. Join us next time and follow us for more on all of your favorite social media platforms.